Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe if you want more updates on true crime stories. Thank you. Indianapolis, 1950s. Jim Jones wasn't just a preacher. He was a storm. Charismatic. Fierce. Obsessively devoted to racial equality, or so it seemed. He founded the People's Temple, a church that preached justice, love, community, and socialism through God. People called him Father. Not as a title, but as devotion. He healed the sick. Hugged the outcasts. Fed the hungry. And he made them feel seen. But behind the sermons, was a man unraveling. A man obsessed with control. A man who used faith like a drug. By the late 60s, the People's Temple had thousands of members. They moved to California, where Jones became a political powerhouse. He mingled with celebrities. Donated to the poor and shook hands with mayors. But whispers began, and the people who left the church told of fake healings, beatings, blackmail. More whisper of signing over homes, pensions, and custody of their children. Jones didn't preach to his followers, but he preached at them. "You're not allowed to question me," he said. "I am the voice of God." The church that had once promised freedom had become a cage. In 1974, Jones announced a new home. A paradise in the jungle of Guyana, South America. Free from U.S. government interference. Free from racism, capitalism, and sin. They called it Jonestown. It was supposed to be heaven. The soil was rich. The sun was warm. They sang songs about unity until the earth as one. But it didn't last as supplies ran low, disease crept in and Father stopped pretending. Jonestown quickly turned into a prison camp. Armed guards patrolled the gates. Letters home were censored. Children were separated from parents and people who tried to escape were punished. Jones broadcast sermons 24/7 on loudspeakers. His voice, raspy, paranoid, endless. He warned of invasions, torture, and CIA plots. He told them, "Only I can protect you." And they believed him. Why? Because he didn't just isolate them physically. He had broken them psychologically. He trained them to distrust outsiders. To confess their sins in public. To spy on each other. To surrender all hope. Then came the rehearsals. Jones called them white nights. In the dead of night, alarms would scream. Guards would order everyone to the pavilion. Jones would say, "The enemy is coming. We have to choose how we die." They were handed cups of flavored liquid. Sometimes it was water. Sometimes tranquilizers. They drank, waited, and wept. And when nothing happened, he smiled. "It was just a test," he'd say. "And you passed." But the message was clear: one day, it won't be a test. November 17, 1978. U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan arrives in Guyana. He'd heard disturbing reports: families torn apart, Americans trapped in the jungle. He brought journalists and a camera crew alongside concerned relatives. At first, Jones staged the perfect visit. Songs. Smiles. Children playing. He told the cameras, "These are the happiest people on earth." But that night, people began to whisper. They slipped notes to reporters: "Help us and get us out." The next day, Ryan agrees to escort defectors back to the U.S. He boards a truck with nearly 20 Jonestown residents. At the Port Kaituma airstrip, a plane waits. But as they begin boarding, a tractor pulls up. And out pour Jones' armed guards, known as the Red Brigade. They open fire. Congressman Leo Ryan is shot over 20 times, a reporter is killed filming and others scramble under the plane. 5 people die and more are injured. But back in Jonestown, Jones begins his final sermon. Inside the pavilion, Jones calls everyone to gather. He speaks into a tape recorder. You can still hear it today. It's known as the death tape. Jones says, "They're coming for us. They'll torture our children. We must die with dignity. He tells parents to bring their children forward. Cups of grape flavor aid, mixed with cyanide, sedatives, and tranquilizers, are handed out. Screams rise and then silence. Babies cry and then fall limp. Adults wail and then collapse. 918 people die and 304 of them are children. The air smells of chemicals, vomit, blood, and jungle rot. When Guyanese soldiers arrive the next morning, what they find is apocalyptic. Bodies piled on top of each other. Arms wrapped around infants. Eyes open and some still foaming at the mouth. Jones is found dead, too, with a bullet wound to the head. Was it suicide? Or did someone else pull the trigger? We may never know. But what we do know is that this wasn't just a mass suicide. It was mass murder. The news explodes. 900 dead in cult massacre. Jonestown, death in the jungle. Americans can't comprehend it. How could this happen? Why didn't they leave? Why did they drink? The term drinking the Kool-Aid enters the culture, a phrase born in blood. But survivors, few as they are, tell a deeper story. They were conditioned, brainwashed and broken. They didn't choose death. Death was their only escape. Today, Jonestown is overgrown. Vines cover the ruins. The pavilion is gone, but its echo remains in psychology classes, in documentaries, and in warning signs for cult behavior. Jim Jones started as a man who said all the right things. But power, paranoia, and delusion turned him into a death dealer. He didn't just kill bodies. He erased identities. And the most chilling part? He convinced people that dying was the only way to live. Jim Jones was born in 1931, in Crete, Indiana, a small, sleepy town. From the start, something was off. Neighbors remembered a boy who gave sermons to animals. Who held funerals for roadkill. Who obsessively read about Hitler, Stalin, and Gandhi, trying to understand power. His mother said he was special. His father was distant, alcoholic, a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Jones rejected him. He claimed to embrace the opposite, equality, compassion, and love. But behind that smile was a boy obsessed with death. 1950s, Jim becomes a student pastor in Indianapolis. He preaches racial integration at a time when it was dangerous. He adopts children of every race. He opens a soup kitchen. He stands with the poor, the forgotten, and the sick. Because of this, people adore him. In 1956, he founds the People's Temple Full Gospel Church. It's not about religion, it's about revolution. Jones preaches a radical blend of Christianity, socialism, and utopia. People call it apostolic socialism. He doesn't just give sermons, but he performs miracles, or so it seems. He makes blind women see and paralyzed men walk. But behind the curtain, his miracles are staged. Helpers plant fake sick people and scripts are rehearsed. Still, the crowds grow. Jones doesn't just want followers, but he wants devotion. He begins calling himself Father. He says, I am God. I am justice. I am the only truth. The church becomes everything to its members. They hand over money, property, and custody of their children. He keeps them exhausted, endless work, public confessions, and emotional beatings. It's not just a church, but it's a machine. By the mid-60s, Jones fears a nuclear apocalypse. He moves the church to Northern California, Ukiah, Redwood Valley. He says it's safe, far from the coming war. He draws hundreds with promises of salvation, but he also builds a cage of control. By the 1970s, the People's Temple has thousands of followers. Jones moves to San Francisco. He gains political power, endorsed by city mayors, politicians, even Rosalind Carter. He provides free food, housing, and jobs to the needy. He organizes protests, integrates schools, and defends minorities. He seems unstoppable. But survivors say behind the public glow was something dark. Members lived communally and gave up all possessions. Jones controlled what they ate, when they slept, and who they saw. He recorded every conversation. Spied on families. Forced people to sign false confessions of crimes, affairs, and abuse. He said, "Your only family is me." Jones pushed boundaries. He ordered people to beat each other during services. To humiliate themselves publicly. To choose between loyalty or punishment. He staged fake assassinations, actors pretending to be killed, just to watch reactions. He told members that their families would be tortured by the government if they left. People began to disappear. Some defectors reported being stalked, threatened, and blackmailed, but many stayed. Why? Because Jones understood control. He destroyed their self-worth and made them confess their worst sins. He gave them new names, new homes, and new roles. He replaced their identity with his own. Some began to speak out. So in 1977, journalist Marshall Kilduff publishes an exposé in New West magazine. Former Temple members describe psychological abuse, financial exploitation, and sexual coercion. Jones panics and gathers hundreds of his followers. Within days, he flees the country. Destination, Guyana. Deep in the jungle, he builds his final kingdom, Jonestown. In Guyana, Jones' mask falls completely. There are no reporters, no laws, and no escape. He rules Jonestown like a god. He controls the food, the medicine, and the marriages. He forces women into his bed and men into submission. He plays tapes of his voice all night, sermons, rants, threats. He stages white nights, drills to test their loyalty. In one, he gives everyone wine, says it's poisoned. People scream, cry, fall to the ground. Then he laughs, "It was just a test." But the message is clear: you belong to me, even your death. To the outside world, Jonestown is a paradise. Jones sends glossy newsletters, photos of smiling children, lush gardens, and dancing elders, but inside, the truth is rotten. Children are hungry. Elders are overworked. Injuries go untreated. Insects infest the cabins. Jones begins injecting himself with drugs, meth, tranquilizers, and barbiturates. He becomes erratic and paranoid. He speaks for hours, slurs his words, and sweats through his clothes. He sees enemies in every shadow: the U.S. government, the CIA, even his own followers. A few manage to escape. One woman flees through the jungle and another fakes insanity to be flown out. They tell the world, Jonestown is a prison. Parents in America raise the alarm and journalists begin digging. Congressman Leo Ryan listens. He organizes a visit, bringing cameras, journalists, and family members. Jones can feel the end closing in, and he prepares his people. He tells them, "If they come for us, we die together. Our death will be a revolution." Those who knew Jones best say he never wanted to die, but he wanted control. Even in the end, when bullets flew and children screamed, Jones sat under the pavilion, surrounded by bodies, recording his final message. His voice cracks. He mutters about dignity and about justice, but it's not justice, it's annihilation. He didn't drink the poison. He's found with a bullet wound, a single round to the head. Was it self-inflicted? Was it a loyal follower ending his madness? The jungle doesn't tell. Jim Jones started as a champion of equality. He fed the poor, integrated churches, and fought racism, but that was the mask. Underneath was a man obsessed with power, control, and death. He studied cult leaders, manipulated psychology, and used love as a weapon. He didn't want believers. He wanted slaves. November 18, 1978. While hundreds of followers gathered under the pavilion, a small group made their move. Odell Rhodes, Stanley Clayton, and Hyacinth Thrash, they were among the few who sensed something was coming. Stanley Clayton sprinted barefoot through the jungle. Thorns tore into his feet, and the dense vines tried to strangle him back. "I just ran," he said. "I didn't look back." Odell Rhodes had been ordered to carry bodies. He watched mothers poison their babies. When the time came, he slipped away, without a sound. Behind them, the echoes grew louder. The crying, the confusion and the silence that followed. Not all survivors were at Jonestown that day. Some were in Georgetown, Guyana's capital, while others were away on errands in the Jonestown band, or stationed as couriers. Deborah Layton had defected months earlier. She filed an affidavit warning the U.S. government of imminent mass suicide, but no one listened. After the massacre, her testimony became gospel, but it didn't ease the pain. "My mother died there," she whispered in interviews. "She drank the poison. I tried, but it wasn't enough." Deborah became both whistleblower and mourner. A woman who saw the fire coming and watched the world ignore the smoke. Hyacinth Thrash was 76. Her body was tired that night, but she hid under her bed. The pavilion speakers blared, screams echoed, and syringes snapped. She stayed still. Pretended to be dead. In the morning, silence. She emerged to find bodies everywhere. Tiny shoes, twisted limbs, cold stares frozen in time. Her entire community, gone. "I didn't die," she later said, "but a part of me did that night." Some survivors were just children. Laura Johnston Cole, 26 at the time, wasn't in Jonestown that day, but she lost her entire world. Friends, chosen family, and the ideology she had trusted with her life. "I had no one left," she said. "It felt like my soul had been torn out." Years later, she began speaking publicly, but the words came slowly. Survivors weren't just battling loss, they were battling shame. The shame of being fooled. The shame of still loving some of the people who played a role. It's the question that haunts all survivors. Why didn't they just leave? Jim Jones Jr., the adopted black son of Jim Jones, answers this best. "We were brainwashed. We were taught that leaving meant death." Jones painted America as a racist hell. He said the CIA would torture defectors. He told followers planes would crash, and families would be torn apart. Fear became faith and leaving became betrayal. By the time most realized the truth, it was too late. Not everyone wanted to flee. Maria Katsaris, one of Jones' most trusted aides, handed out syringes on the final day. She fully believed in revolutionary suicide. She died beside him, calm, loyal, and convinced she was making history. Even miles away in California, Temple members took their lives when the news hit. They weren't coerced, but they believed. The spell of Jonestown extended beyond borders, even into death. Many survivors disappeared into anonymity. Some changed their names while others fled the spotlight. The media painted them as gullible cultists as well as accomplices to mass murder. But they were human, desperate, and searching for meaning. Vernon Gosney handed a note to Congressman Leo Ryan before the massacre. "Please help us get out of Jonestown." He was stabbed and his son was murdered. He survived, but every breath since has carried the weight of that day. Survivors endured more than grief. They faced depression, addiction, homelessness, and nightmares. Leslie Wagner Wilson, who fled with her baby hours before the poison ritual, now speaks at schools and churches. But she admits, "I've cried through every word of my story. I relive it every time I open my mouth." Yet she continues. Because silence is what made Jonestown possible. Some survivors return to the site. Today, it's an overgrown jungle. Nature has reclaimed the land. Vines cover where the pavilion once stood, but the ghosts remain. "I stood where my mother died," one survivor said. "I closed my eyes and heard her last scream." There are no gravestones, just memory markers and tears. One woman couldn't drink Kool-Aid for 30 years. Another flinched every time she heard the word church. Some survivors say Jones' voice still haunts them, "Don't be afraid to die," echoing in the silence. You don't walk away from a trauma like that. You carry it every day and in every moment. Despite the fear, many survivors now speak publicly. They host podcasts, write memoirs, and appear in documentaries. Not for attention but for justice and for clarity. To show the world what manipulation looks like and how easy it is to fall into it. Because Jonestown wasn't just one madman, it was a warning. The survivors carry the torch of memory. They lost their children, their spouses, and their futures, but they lived, and in their survival, we find the truth. That evil can wear the face of love. That faith can be used as a weapon. And that hope, when poisoned, can kill. But also, that even in the face of horror, some light survives. When U.S. officials arrived at Jonestown, they expected dozens dead. Then, 100. Then 200. But the number kept climbing. 918. Why did the numbers rise so drastically? Because many of the victims were children, hidden beneath layers of adult corpses. Stacked. Like cargo. And that was just the beginning of the horror. Some bodies had bullet wounds while others, strangulation marks. If this was a mass suicide, why did so many people appear to be fighting back? The official U.S. stance, cyanide poisoning. A Kool-Aid cocktail of death. But the reality? Autopsies were incomplete. Some were never performed because bodies decomposed too quickly in the tropical heat. And then, there was Jim Jones. The man who orchestrated it all. Was shot in the head. Not poisoned but shot at close range. Some say, he took his own life. Others insist, someone else pulled the trigger. Was it a follower? A dissenter? No one knows. And no one tried too hard to find out. The few who made it out alive carried trauma and secrets. Deborah Layton. Tim Carter. Odell Rhodes. They tried to testify. Tried to warn the world that Jonestown wasn't just a cult. It was a machine. A system of control, abuse, and manipulation backed by something more, but their voices were drowned out. By headlines calling them brainwashed. By government agencies downplaying their claims. And then, they started dying. Natural causes. Accidents. Silence. In 1980, the FBI began compiling the Reimer files. Over 39 boxes of evidence on Jonestown. Audio recordings. Letters. Security rosters. Secret financial logs. It's one of the largest domestic intelligence caches ever collected on a single American religious group. But nearly all of it? Classified for decades. And even when released under Freedom of Information laws, entire sections were redacted. Names. Locations. Operations. Why? What were they hiding? And why was the People's Temple being monitored, years before they even moved to Guyana? A real-world testing ground for mind control. Jones used isolation, sleep deprivation, starvation, and public punishments. He recorded hours of white night drills. Staged suicides, preparing his followers for the final act. Only one person was ever convicted in connection to Jonestown. Larry Layton. He was charged for the murder of Congressman Leo Ryan during the airstrip ambush. But what about Jones' inner circle? His armed guards? His finance officers? His enforcers who dragged women and children to their deaths? No indictments. No grand jury. No justice. In 1987, nearly a decade later, Layton was still behind bars. And everyone else? Free. Or dead. For families back in the U.S., the nightmare didn't end with Jonestown. Many never recovered the bodies of loved ones. Others received remains in sealed, unmarked coffins, no photos, no answers. Over 400 victims, never individually identified. Mass graves. Even today, some families don't know where their relatives were buried or if they ever left Guyana at all. The grief lingers. So do the questions. The tragedy of Jonestown didn't stop the rise of cults. In fact, it inspired a blueprint. Control through isolation. Charisma. Propaganda. Fear. From Waco, to Nexium, to social media cults in the digital age. The ghosts of Jonestown whisper louder than ever. Jones may be dead, but the system he built is alive. What if we told you? Some say the People's Temple never truly died. Rumors persist of offshoots. Secret cells. Members who rebranded and regrouped. In 2001, a journalist uncovered a small congregation in California with similar teachings. In 2013, ex-members claimed donations were still being processed under defunct temple tax IDs. And the children? Dozens were unaccounted for. Were they rescued? Rehomed? Or hidden? In 2006, a private collector discovered a tape believed to be recorded after the massacre. On it, a man, his voice eerily similar to Jones, speaks. "We are scattered, but we are not lost. They think it's over. But we remain." Is it real? A hoax? Or, the final message from the jungle? The Jonestown massacre was a tragedy. A mass death wrapped in spiritual delusion. But it was more than that. It was a mirror, reflecting our blind faith, our trust in charisma, and the terrifying price of silence. The victims may be gone, but their stories echo still. In the tape hiss. In the courtrooms. In the minds of those left behind. 918 lives. 918 warnings. And only one question left. Have we learned anything? Was Jonestown a failure of faith? Or a manipulated machine of terror? Tell us in the comments. And if you've stayed with us through, thank you. Your attention honors the dead. Subscribe to this channel for more hidden stories, haunting truths, and true crime stories. This was Jonestown, the final echo.